Prepare yourselves for a battle of epic proportions between two titans. Feast upon their voices and revel in their words. This is Dueling Ogres. Hello, ogres, and welcome to episode 23. Thank you for joining us as always on this incorporeal Wednesday evening. Earth date, October 29th, 2014. I'm your host, Remington Hitchcock, and with me as always is my co-host, Brandon Full. Say hello, Brandon.
Hey.
Not even gonna. Now you into spooky voice
No.
for a Halloween episode?
No, I think that you did a good job of it.
You're
I didn't think I could follow it.
you're placating my ego, aren't you?
Well, I wanted to try to do a Bela Lugosi voice, but I don't know what he sounds like.
You should have looked that up.
Well, every accent I do sounds like Christopher Walken, so I'm just going to assume Bela Lugosi sounds like Christopher Walken.
Fair enough.
Hello,
Welcome to the podcast.
I was Dracula.
One time I played a Dracula person.
See, even then, the only accent I can really do is Christopher Walken, and yours is better than mine.
Did he play Dracula? What did he play Dracula?
Bela Lugosi?
No, Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did play one, didn't he? Gary Oldman played one as well. What was it, like Dracula 2000, I think.
Was that the one with Keanu Reeves? No, that was Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah. Maybe he did play Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Who?
Gary Oldman.
Christopher Walken?
Christopher Walken.
Bela Lugosi?
Wait, maybe he played... Whoa, now I'm confused. Now I'm going to look it up.
Maybe I'm just thinking he did because Christopher Walken looks like a vampire.
Maybe so. Yeah, Gary Oldman played Dracula in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And I think the greatest of the vampire movies, Leslie Nielsen played Dracula in Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Oh, man, I forgot about that, and that is awesome.
Is that a good movie? I've actually never seen it.
Yeah,
I just love
totally,
Leslie Nielsen.
Gerard Butler played Dracula in Dracula 2000. Huh.
Was Dracula 2000 released in the year 2000?
Yes. That's why they called it 2000.
I feel like that was the end of that era where you would name stuff by like what year it came out.
Right.
Or
now
like
we have to wait until the year 3000.
I bet in like 2020 we'll have movies. We'll have at least like Dracula 2020.
Yeah, we could have that.
Because it's round. Like 2000, it's too cool to not add, you know?
Yeah, and 2020 is like, this is 2020.
When I hear Dracula 2000, I think like fucking robot Dracula, motorcycle helmet, like slicked back, anime style, like moving super fast, like wheels growing out of his bat legs, and he's just zooming down the interstate, cutting people with his Dracula talons. That's what I think when I think Dracula 2000, right?
2000 or 2020?
2000.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll
like
give you that.
T1000.
Yeah.
Only Dracula. D1000.
You just blew my motherfucking mind. Damn, Brandon. It's like Blade and Dracula 2000 mixed together.
Like if Blade was a vampire?
Well, he is.
Yeah, I know.
Sort of.
He's half vampire,
He's
right?
half vampire.
Wasn't his mom bitten by a vampire while he was being born or something?
Yes.
Is that really what happened?
Yeah, that's really what happened.
She was bitten while he was being born.
Yeah.
What a stupid backstory.
And that's why he's known as the Daywalker. Because the sunlight doesn't hurt him.
But does he still have to drink blood?
He manages it through, like, fucking some cocktail of hemoglobin, I think.
But to be fair, we should say that your knowledge of Blade only comes from the Wesley Snipes movie, right?
Yeah.
Not from any of the
Not from
comics or appearances or anything?
No. But yeah, he fights his thirst with injections.
With delicious Code Red Mountain Dew. Now a sponsor of Dueling Ogres.
So tasty. Don't sue us, Mountain Dew.
Can you imagine if we got a Pepsi sponsorship?
Oh my god, that'd be awesome.
What would we do? We would, because
hopefully we'd get Code Red for free, because that shit's delicious.
Well, traditionally, like, I'm kind of an anti-authority figure in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So my natural inclination would be to buck it and be like, are we really selling out? But when it actually came down to it, I'd be wearing Pepsi shirts. I'd have like Mountain Dew tennis shoes. Not even real shoes, just 2 liters.
Just
strapped
2 liters
around.
strapped to
And
your
people
feet.
would look at me like I'm homeless, and I'd hand them like my business card.
They're like, no, I'm just sponsored by Pepsi.
My business
It's okay.
card would be inside a bottle of Code Red Mountain Dew.
You just give it to them and it's laminated, stuck inside.
Yeah.
Rolled up like a note in a bottle.
You got to drink that to call me.
You gotta drink that soda, baby. Yeah.
I don't drink sugary sodas.
Well, you should. What's wrong with you?
I mean,
Oh, it makes you fat and causes cancer. Who gives a shit? You're gonna die sooner or later.
Pepsi causes cancer?
Everything causes cancer, Brandon.
Does this podcast cause cancer?
Yes.
Oh. I'm going to go ahead and recommend you stop listening to this.
Right.
Go out, light up a cigar.
Get yourself tested.
I think we're 2 different directions on this.
Maybe we're not cancer. Maybe we're an STD. If you put us in your
podcast?
ear holes, you'll get ear STDs.
Well, no, see, we're not an STD because STDs spread. We're pretty... We stay pretty localized.
Oh, God. Oh, that's going to take me a minute to get,
Yeah, I got you on that
get
one.
back on to. Oh. So this week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about Halloween, but first we're going to get a little bit of what we've been doing since we missed a week last week. So, Brandon, you were telling me earlier about you reading the fuck out of some comic.
Yeah, I have been reading Preacher.
Preacher, okay.
Have you ever heard of Preacher?
No. Well, it sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't think I've never read it or seen any of the art or anything.
I got a comic app on my Kindle,
Right.
Comixology, and I also downloaded another one called Comic Cat, which lets you take any PDFs of comics you have in your computer and read them that way, and you can sync it to your Google Drive and stuff.
Yeah.
If you have PDFs of comics, I would recommend Comic Cat. It's COMICAT. I think it's like $2.99 or $3.99 for a download, but it's so easy because you upload shit to Google Drive, sync it, it'll download it automatically.
Sponsor.
But anyway, so I had all of Preacher and decided to start reading it. I went through all 66 issues plus half of the specials, which I think there were 7,
Yeah.
in like 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, Preacher is really, really, really good.
So you were super into that.
Yeah, it's just... I started reading the Dragonlance comic
Uh-huh.
based off of the Terry Weissman, Margaret Hickman, something like that. The 2 writers, they're old late 80s, early 90s fantasy books, and they did comic book adaptations of the books.
Okay.
And then from there, I was just trying to find stuff that people have always suggested to me.
Yeah.
And Preacher is one that I've heard over and over. Like, Brandon, your tastes specifically, you're going to like Preacher.
Right.
So I finally checked it out and loved it. Basic premise is there's an angel and a demon in heaven that hook up and have a baby.
Okay.
That baby is immediately, like, imprisoned.
Yeah.
It's prisoned.
It's present.
It's imprisoned by heaven because it has power equivalent to God. Because nothing like this has ever existed before.
Uh-huh.
So nobody understands what it is, which in this weird comic logic, because nobody understands what it is, it has the power equivalent to God.
Okay.
So the very first issue, the baby named Genesis breaks free and flies to Earth and inhabits a guy named Jesse Custer, who is like a small town preacher. So he discovers when he wakes up from this that he now has what they call the Word of God, which means he's totally normal. Like, he's, real fit, kind of a badass guy, shoots guns and all that stuff.
Okay.
But besides that, he has the Word of God. So he can tell you to do something or say something to you, and you just do it.
Huh. Okay.
So his whole thing is he finds out really early on, and this isn't spoilers, I won't go into spoilers with it. This is like within the first 3 issues at the most, he finds out that God has left heaven and has disappeared. And has kind of left heaven to the angels to kind of run the day-to-day stuff, and nobody knows where God is.
Okay.
So his entire purpose is he is going to find God on Earth.
So the demon celestial child that's inhabiting him, or him himself?
Him himself. He's pretty much in control. He'll just get flashes.
Okay.
He can't... A big point of the story through most of the run is he's trying to figure out how to access this entity's like memories to figure out what's going on, because it has the power of God, so it knows everything.
Right.
So he teams up with his girlfriend, who's like a real dad was a hunter, awesome with guns, kind of a badass, and he runs across a vampire, like a punk rock Irish vampire that travels with him.
Okay.
And he just goes around like shooting people and just kicking ass, trying to find God. And the whole time Heaven has sent out the Saint of Killers, which is basically the new Death.
Okay.
And the Saint of Killers is slowly trying to hunt him down.
Gotcha.
Because early on within the first couple issues, the Saint of Killers approaches him and nothing can stop him. I mean, he gets shot with tanks. At one point he gets nuked and just doesn't touch him at all.
Huh.
So he approaches Preacher and pulls a gun on him, not knowing who he is. He's just going to kill him. And the Preacher uses his word to make the Saint drop his gun. So after that, the Saint is just constantly hunting the Preacher down, trying to get him because he's irritated that somebody's more powerful than him, pretty much.
I gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah.
It seems like trying to tap into the mental power of an entity who is as powerful as God, the omnipresence, and might not be a good idea for the feeble human mind.
Well, what's neat is he was raised in Texas, so he's got like a real down-home country, like, you insult my honor, I'll kick your ass kind of thing.
Right.
Like real shit kicking. So he uses the word very sparingly.
Okay.
I'd say 20 times max in the 60-some issues, and 20 is a high estimate too.
Okay.
Because he feels it's unfair. If he can survive by not using the word and just kicking somebody's ass, he'll do it that way because that's more of a fair fight.
Right. I gotcha.
So, yeah, it's really neat. They've been in the talks for years, since I think late 90s, to make Preacher into a movie. Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier were attached to it for a while, but it kind of rotted in development hell. But it was announced, I think, early this year that AMC is working on a Preacher television show.
Oh, okay.
Produced by Seth Rogen, of all people. That's set to debut in 2015.
That's cool.
So, yeah, I heard the news originally and was just like, I don't know what fucking Preacher is anyway, who cares? But now that I've read it, I'm really excited for it.
That's cool.
And I've immediately jumped on the bandwagon of, oh, I hope they don't fuck it up. So,
Right.
Yeah, I would recommend checking out Preacher. You would be able to tell within the first 1 or 2 issues whether it's for you or not. It's super violent, lots of cussing in it. It's done by Garth Ennis, is the writer.
Okay.
He's done a lot of really violent comics from the 90s. He wrote Punisher for a while.
Yeah.
So there's lots of like people being shot through the chin and their brains blowing out, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Man, not to get too far off topic, but just Punisher, one of my favorite ones that I ever read was where the entire perspective, I think it was a short.
Was Through the Mouth?
Yeah, Through the Mouth. Oh my God.
That was Garth Ennis.
Oh, was it? Okay, cool. Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff you can expect.
Yeah, he's pulling the teeth out of this guy as he's interrogating him and just doing terrible dental work.
Yeah,
Ugh.
so the whole issue you're seeing like teeth getting ripped out.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and Preacher has a character named Arseface, who is, I think at this point, like late 20s guy who when he was 17, 18, somewhere in there, shot himself underneath the chin with a shotgun after he found out Kurt Cobain killed himself.
Okay.
Survived. And the facial reconstruction surgery made it in such a way that his mouth is like a small hole.
Okay.
And his face looks like a butthole. So the vampire nicknames him Arseface, and he takes that nickname and runs with it. So every so often you'll check in on him, and I won't spoil anything else, but he has a decent sized part of the story too.
Cool. Also, this past week, and it was originally leaked, was the trailer for Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't spoil it by watching it. I knew that it was leaked, but I didn't watch it because we have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. queued on our TiVo to record, so I waited until then to actually watch it. And they actually added an extra scene to the beginning of it.
Because
of
originally
the
they
leak,
were
I
going
think.
to air the trailer on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
And it leaked, so they added something else in.
Yeah, so they added in... you didn't actually get to see the addition, did you?
No.
They added in... They're all... Avengers are all sitting around a table just bullshitting and trying to lift Thor's hammer off of the table. And you have Tony Stark. He tries to pull up on it. Nothing happens. He goes and grabs one of the gloves for the suit and is trying to pull it up with that. And Rhodey also helps. He grabs a glove as well, and they're both trying to pull on it. and Captain America walks up and pulls it and budges it.
Mm-hmm.
And you see Thor's face kind of drop for a second. It's very funny.
In the comics, eventually Captain America was able to wield Thor's hammer. He was proven
Mjolnir.
Worthy.
That's cool. So yeah, if you've watched it already, and if you've noticed, Andy Serkis, who is one of my favorite character actors like ever since doing Gollum, he makes a very brief appearance in it. And there had been rumors floating around that he was not just a motion capture consultant, but he also had a role to play, and you see his face for just a few frames. And it's rumored that he would be playing Ulysses Claw, which is the
grandfather of Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
No, Ulysses Claw, who is the arch enemy of the Black Panther. And you were telling me that Stan Lee accidentally let slip that they're going to be making a Black Panther.
Yeah, I can't remember in what context. He was doing an interview and was talking about the next phase of Marvel stuff. And just said something along the lines of like, and of course we've got Black Panther coming up.
Your infamous Stan Lee impression.
Stan Lee.
Stan Lee.
I'm gonna do Spider-Man a little. I didn't know anything about Black Panther at all.
Yeah.
And I got one of those omnibuses of Avengers.
Uh-huh.
You know, that's like collection of some of their best stories. They're super cheap because they're not on good paper.
Right.
And Black Panther was in a lot of these Avengers stories, and reading it, Black Panther's really cool.
Yeah. I remember seeing a few episodes, I don't even remember what the cartoon series was, where Black Panther made an appearance several times within the series. And he always seemed like a cool character that just never really got explored in the animated series.
I've been reading the Marvel Now Wolverine leading up to the death of Wolverine, and Black Panther's in that a little bit. And he apparently had a relationship with Storm for a while.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but again, I don't really know a whole lot about Black Panther.
Yeah.
What did you think about James Spader's voice for Ultron? Because I did not like it.
Honestly, I'd have to go... It felt okay to me. I think I'd have to go back and listen to it again just to really listen to it.
I'm sure in the movie it'll be fine, and I guarantee I'm going to love Avengers Age of Ultron. If we're still doing this podcast a year from now or whenever it comes out.
May 1st.
Oh, is it May 1st?
Yep, May 1st, 2015.
If one of us hasn't killed the other by May 1st and we see it, I'm sure I'll be on
really
here.
Unlikely.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll be on here saying, "Oh, Age of Ultron, you got to see it. It's so great." Blah, 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 blah. But just
exactly like that, I hope.
I just expected Ultron from the comics I've read to be a little more robot-y.
Uh-huh.
But that's just my own perception of what he would sound like.
Yeah.
But James Spader just kind of gave him that like real deep like voice when he
Gravelly,
talked.
Yeah.
I've got no strings or whatever. Which
Right.
he has that deep sound of like you need to clear your throat.
Yeah.
And Ultron's a fucking robot. Again, this is just nerdy nitpicking of stuff. I know it doesn't matter. 90% of the people who see it aren't going to think of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's really the big news going on as far as comics go. I'm sure there's other stuff, but we didn't really look up a whole lot of it.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about Halloween, damn it. So let's talk about Halloween.
Yeah.
So Halloween as we know it is kind of a Christianized version of what was originally Samhain, Samhain. So it's not Samhain, it's pronounced Samhain, which was a Gaelic festival.
I would say you can continue to pronounce it Samhain, because otherwise you're going to be that person that corrects other people when they say Samhain and go, well, actually...
Excuse me, sir, I do believe you mean to pronounce it Samhain or Samhain. I mean, that's the correct pronunciation. Stupid. What's wrong with you?
So, Samhain was, like I said, a Gaelic festival, and it happened on November 1st. And it was like the end of the spring, or the spring, summer, fall season, where they would bring in their livestock and, slaughter it for the coming winter. And they also believed that at this time of the year, the veil between the world of the living and the dead was weaker, and the spirits could pass on to this plane. This also happened earlier in the year at one of the other festivals. So ritualistic bonfires were often lit to provide protection and cleansing. And they would also leave food and wine and other spirits on the doorstep to keep the spirits at bay.
And this is the older pagan ritual you're talking about.
Yes, this is the older pagan ritual that was... So when the Romans came and started taking over the British Isles and putting their influence in, is when those rituals were Christianized and became All Hallows Eve. And it's said that we think that, or scholars think, not we, I mean, who are we?
I would consider myself a scholar.
A scholar of what?
You know, just scholarly things.
I think I'm a scholar of Doritos. I do love me some Doritos.
Have you tried a lot of Doritos, like different flavors, or do you pretty much stick to Cool Ranch?
No, I would say I'm a traditionalist.
You're not really a scholar then. You have to go out.
Don't you tell me how to be a scholar of what I think I know.
Fair enough. Because I'm a scholar of patience, I will allow that.
Fair enough. So, yeah, when the Romans came in, you know, as they Christianized the religions that they came across, turned it into All Hallows Eve, and from there we get Halloween, which I believe the Irish pronunciation, or the Gaelic pronunciation of All Hallows Eve, or the Eve part was even, or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can tell we did a whole lot of research on this. We've got a page. One page.
We did our research half an hour ago.
Yep.
Typed it up, so...
It's good stuff. So there are a lot of different creatures associated, or a few different creatures associated with Halloween. Bats, owls, black cats, and spiders.
So just night things.
Yeah, things that would lurk in the night.
Or bump. Things that may bump things.
Yeah, things that would bump in the darker period of the day. I don't want to say bump in the night, it just sounds too cliche.
Yeah.
Then we also have the different monsters that are associated with Halloween, which would be like demons, ghosts, Frankenstein himself. Well, Frankenstein's monster, because the monster wasn't actually called Frankenstein.
Did you also know it's actually pronounced Samhain and not Samhain?
Yeah, I did.
There,
I did.
Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
Actually.
Mummies, zombies, werewolves.
Werewolves?
Werewolves. Werewolves.
That's a werewolf's.
That's a werewolf right there.
I wonder how Frankenstein got associated with Halloween. Just because he's a spooky monster?
Yeah.
Was he because he was in the stable of Universal monsters with like Dracula, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Yeah.
Why don't we hear more about the Creature from the Black Lagoon
Because he was
during
boring
Halloween?
as fuck.
I've actually never seen the movie. He looked cool though.
Yeah. I mean, oh, it's a man-like fish creature who pops up and grabs you and takes you away.
Did he eat people?
I don't even
Did
know.
he like kidnap like King
I
Kong?
never watched the movie.
Did he make
Yeah.
sweet love
To King Kong? Yes.
to King Kong?
Yes. It was really awkward.
Ironically enough, Creature from the Black Lagoon was the top.
It's true. Skeletons, vampires, and then places that are generally associated with Halloween would be like graveyards and haunted houses and things. Haunted houses have come a long way, I think. You see haunted houses spring up all over the states, and they try to top each other every year and get a little more spooky and get a little more creepy.
What's your opinion on haunted houses?
As a general rule, I'm not a big fan of creepy stuff and like jump scares and stuff like that. Like gross things don't scare me, but like jump scares, I hate being startled. I really do. And that seems to be the crux of what a haunted house is based around is jump scares. I remember when I was in school, I think it was elementary school. We went on a haunted hike.
Was this school or fat camp?
I never went to fat camp, thank you.
All right, kids, we're going to take a haunted hike.
Oh my god. This is scary enough.
You've got a bag of Doritos and like one of those graduation hats on. Like, all right, Mr. Scholar, put down the Doritos. We're going on a haunted hike.
I don't know if I can do this, guys. I'm running low on sour cream to dip my Doritos in.
The haunted hike. It's like 2 miles through the woods. You get to a clearing with a mini fridge in it, and you open it, and it's empty.
Bum, bum, bum.
This is the worst hike ever.
But anyway, haunted hike, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I got really turned off about haunted houses, because when I was a kid, jump scares were just the worst for me. And that's what they were built around, and, you know, somebody jump out and grab your leg or something, just scare the piss out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Drives me nuts.
I hate haunted houses.
Oh, yeah?
I have no desire to go through them. I mean, I will. I think I might be better equipped now. The thing is, every haunted house always has that point, at least the ones I've been through, where it's dark. Like, pitch black, and it's just like, well, you gotta get out of the room, feel your way around.
Yeah.
Nah, I hate that shit. I can deal with people jumping out at me, dude in a Jason mask revving a blunt chainsaw at you.
Right.
Whatever, I can deal with that. It's just the dark. I do have a haunted house story I want to tell, though.
Okay.
When I was in probably 9th grade or so, that was when I was still going to church religiously, if you will.
I see what you did there.
But I was going to a friend's church, and they had a haunted house.
Uh-huh.
And I can't remember what they called it. I think they called it a holy house.
Yeah.
And I don't remember a whole lot of it. But I remember you walk into the first room, and this is kids going through this holy house from like 10 to 17, somewhere in there. The first room you walk into is a woman sitting in a rocking chair with a sign above it that says abortion clinic. And the woman is sitting there rocking. And then a guy in a doctor's costume walks out with a baby doll that he's covered in fake blood and is like, here's your baby. And she's like, no, I didn't want this. And then holds the bloody baby. And they stood us there for like 2-3 minutes easy, just in silence. And nothing else happened. She just stood there rocking the bloody baby while the doctor was like, this is what you wanted. Yeah, it's fucked up, right?
That's totally
That's super fucked up.
Yeah.
A 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
But my favorite memory of that is as
Wow.
as we're leaving the haunted house, the last thing we see is there's a kid there, and I went to the church with this kid, so I knew him.
Yeah.
I wasn't cool enough to actually be in the haunted house, because I totally would have done that.
Yeah.
But the kid is shirtless, and he's laying on his back. And there's a guy dressed like a demon, like red paint, fake horns, but still wearing like a t-shirt and stuff.
Right.
And he's pretending to eat the kid's intestines.
Okay.
And the intestines are very clearly spaghetti.
Uh-huh.
Like, very clearly somebody just took a pot of spaghetti with sauce, probably some meatballs in there, and dumped it on his stomach, right?
Okay.
So we walk past. The thing that I'll never forget is the kid is a terrible actor. So as we walk, this is him. He has a little bit of a West Virginia twang. So as we walk, repeating over and over, he's going, oh no! They're eating me! Just over and over. They're eating my intestines! Oh no!
They're clearly doing what you can see that they are doing
It was
to my body.
It was so great. And like, I think every so often the demon would look at us like, this could be you or whatever. But over that is just the...
See, like, if you really want to grab some stuff to do like a Christian version of a haunted house, I mean, there's some scary fucking shit in the Bible. You don't need to make stuff up. I mean, God tells a man to cut his child in half.
Well, I think that they're trying to like scare you with things that Christianity is against.
Yeah.
They're not trying to scare you with things from the Bible. I think that's a little counterproductive.
I don't know, man. To see Old Testament God bringing his wrath upon all.
That would be a cool haunted house, though, to do like Old Testament style haunted house. Like you walk into one room and it's built like the second floor of a house.
Yeah.
And you have suddenly that scene, like you have a dude in there dressed like an angel.
Yeah.
You even do traditional angel, toga and wings.
Right.
And then outside of the window, you hear the people who are like, send the angel out, we want to fuck him. Like the story of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And it's just people pounding on the doors and the windows and like torches and people yelling at you.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Or turning an actor into salt. I mean, that would
Yeah.
be cool.
And then they actually
just-
fuck the angel in front of you.
Yeah. Wait, what?
I like how you agreed with me so quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Wing
Or just
job.
sending them into a room and then flooding it with water.
Just drowning them?
Yes, just drowning people. That would be
That's
sweet.
not a haunted house. That's a death camp.
Oh! Sometimes I get those two confused.
There's a haunted house I was reading about that runs in New York and also in LA called the Blackout Experience. Have you heard of this?
No.
I'll just go real quick with it. They've been doing it for a few years now. You get on sometimes a years-long waiting list.
Oh, wow.
Where you apply. You have to fill out a whole questionnaire, and they just choose people from that.
Okay.
There's different experiences. You can go and read about them. If you look up Blackout Walkthrough, you'll find a guy that did it and was allowed through them because it's supposed to be kept very hush-hush.
Okay.
But like just one of the examples of one of the years they did is they told a guy, all right, meet here in this phone booth. So the guy goes into a phone booth or meet here at this phone booth in New York at this certain time.
Okay.
So the guy goes into the phone booth and waits for like 20 minutes. And a stranger comes up to him and hands him an envelope and says, walk down that street and keep walking.
Okay.
So the guy's walking, and he's told, don't open the envelope yet.
Okay.
So he's walking down the street in like a real shitty part of New York.
Right.
And walks down multiple streets until like a homeless guy runs up to him and starts shaking him and is like, this hotel, and just keeps repeating the name of a hotel over and over. So the guy at that point realizes, oh, that's where I'm supposed to go. This guy's an actor.
Okay.
So he goes to the hotel. The bellhop there tells him, open your envelope. He opens the envelope. It's a key to a hotel room.
Okay.
He goes in the hotel room. There's a cell phone sitting on the desk in this hotel room. And as soon as he walks in the hotel room, he gets a text that says, here's a gift for you. After you do this, take off all your clothes, turn off all the lights, and go to sleep. And then the gift to him was a shot of whiskey.
Okay.
So he does it, takes off all his clothes, turns off all the lights. 2 hours later, he can hear people in his room, and it's two like big butch dudes who like pick him up naked and throw him in a bathroom, in the hotel bathroom in his room.
Yeah.
And shut the door and are like yelling at him and stuff. And he looks in, and there's a naked woman laying in ice bath in his bathtub.
Okay.
And he also looks up, he's still totally naked, and there's a camera in the corner recording him. The woman gets up and like starts masturbating in front of him.
Okay.
And then in the middle of it, these dudes bust in and grab him and like saran wrap him to where he can't breathe and get him almost to the point of passing out before they poke a hole in the saran wrap. And they do that by shoving their fingers down his throat. Then they unwrap him after a couple minutes, give him his clothes, and say, you have 30 seconds to get out of this hotel, and count down.
Wow.
Like, this is one of the experiences, and there's other ones. They're doing one this year that's the first time they've done a group experience. And, like, people go through, get like, full-on waterboarded.
Wow.
Choked almost unconsciousness, like, fucked up stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you can find videos of it on YouTube. Like, not the actual haunted house, because the real Hush Hush. It's like an art collective that does it.
Yeah. I'd figure doing things so extreme would be borderline illegal.
Well, you sign waivers. There's all kinds of waivers you sign.
Oh, I'm sure.
Would you ever do something like that?
Absolutely not.
Not for any amount of money?
I mean, if somebody's going to pay me to do it.
$500?
Maybe 1,000.
Because to go through the actual haunted house, not the experience with the hotel room, from going in to leaving, once you're in the haunted house, is 30 minutes. You're in there for 30 minutes, getting like handcuffed, fingers shoved down your throat. In one of the haunted house ones, there's a naked old man who pulls you into a bathroom and says you need to get the key to unlock the shackles on your legs, and the key is hidden in a toilet bowl full of actual vomit, and you have to just dig through it to find it.
That's
Stuff
gross.
like that, yeah.
Wow. So maybe we should move on to the Charlie Brown Great Pumpkin. Seems like a good segue from that.
I just wrote down Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown because it's one of those classic Halloween things.
Right.
Which I have never seen.
Oh, have you not?
No.
It's been so long that I don't really remember it, so why would you write it down in our show notes?
Because it came out in 1966. And a lot of people are familiar with the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. I don't know. I just spitballing shit. I don't know.
You're just throwing random notes on our
Great
paper.
Pumpkin was some
something
sort of
sticks.
monster, right? Wasn't the Great Pumpkin like some sort of demon thing that was stalking the children? Am I thinking of Blair Witch Project?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
That was real good, Brandon.
I just assumed that you had seen it. I thought I was in the...
I have seen it, but it's been fucking 20 years since
So it's
I've
not
seen
like
it.
a Halloween tradition for you to watch?
No.
It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown?
No, it's not.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a bust on that one.
Well, not everything we do can be gold, Brandon. So why don't you tell us about witches, then?
Yeah, I took some random notes on witches just because I find them pretty entertaining.
Okay.
Specifically, I focused, because there's so much information on witches and witchcraft, I was looking for straight-up traditional, riding a broom, pointy hat witches. And of course, because I was doing these notes half an hour before we started, there was way too much information on witches' hats, while also not being enough information.
Right.
It was all totally speculative. I did find that the first instance that they know of like the funnel-shaped witch's hat was found on a trio of mummies in the Subeshi region of China.
Okay.
That they've nicknamed the Witches of Subeshi, around 4th century,
Uh-huh.
and they were 3 mummies wearing funnel-shaped hats.
So the general consensus, though, is that during the Middle Ages, the medieval times, lords and ladies, or ladies specifically, would wear conal-shaped hats that would generally have some sort of veil flowing from them.
Yeah, I think you kind of see that in your traditional depiction of like a princess, right?
Right, yeah.
Where she's wearing the long, almost dunce cap with the veil hanging from it.
Yeah. And then as that style became more popular and then became more accessible to the lower class, they started wearing hats like that. It fell out of fashion with the upper crust. And
Because once the poor people start wearing it,
it's not cool anymore.
like
And-
leather fringe.
And then around that time, we come to people being accused of doing witchcraft, and maybe that's where the association comes from.
Well, because in what I was looking at, making like traditional charms for, our crops are going to grow if we burn sage and stuff,
Right.
was always something that peasants did.
Yeah.
You know, any sort of luck that you have, you even still have that now to sports teams and stuff.
Yeah, well, people still even use sage to cleanse a haunted house, because spirits are supposed to not like the smell of sage.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
That spirits can live in the dingiest, dankest houses and don't care who they possess. Just smell of sage, don't like it.
Yeah, I'm not too keen on the smell of sage there.
I'm not a fan of sage as a seasoning, though, so maybe I'm a ghost.
Maybe. Hold on. I went right through him
Wouldn't be the first time.
with my penis.
The idea of witches wearing the wide-brimmed, tall black hats comes from 1710s to 1720s English literature, specifically children's literature like Grimm's fairy tales and stuff.
Yeah.
They started to depict them wearing that, and it's just kind of been a thing ever since.
Yeah. It's weird. There's so much good literature about witches over the years, but right now we're in this zombie... I would say we're firmly in the zombie category as a society right now. Everybody seems to like the zombie stuff. Whereas, even just a few years ago, it was vampires. Vampires were fucking everywhere.
Zombies were around before vampires as far as popularity.
Well,
Zombies
yeah, but
have
it
been
seemed-
continuously going, and then there was the little subsection of a few years where vampires were all the rage.
Yeah, yeah.
But zombies are still around. I wish they would be done.
Yeah, so tired of zombies.
I know. And you see, like, when new video game systems are announced, inevitably one of the first couple of games is like, oh, here's a game where you kill zombies and this and that. And it's just like, done.
It's like,
done
yeah,
with zombies.
we all know how to survive a zombie apocalypse now.
But, I mean, so are you saying that in the way that there should be a resurgence of witches? Like, maybe we should start focusing on witches?
I think so. Not too long ago, it was Grimm's Fairy Tales, the movie Grimm's Fairy Tales, with Matt Damon and Heath Ledger. I thought that movie was very enjoyable, and it had to do with witches as well.
Well, and there was Hansel and Gretel that had Jeremy Renner. Is that the guy who plays Hawkeye?
Yes, I
I don't
believe
know.
so.
The guy, Hawkeye.
Yeah.
As Hawkeye was in it. And some girl.
Yeah.
I don't know her name or who she was. But yeah, supposed to be really bad. They were
Really?
Hansel and Gretel, witch hunters.
Bum, bum, bum.
Which theoretically sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I want to see it from like a witch's point of view, though. Like full-on evil witch or a coven of witches just doing evil, crazy shit.
Well, maybe we should write a script, Brandon.
We should. All right, this is going to be the end of the podcast.
We're going to start script writing now.
We'll call it The Witches of Eastwick.
That's already been done.
All right, I guess we'll continue the podcast then.
Okay.
In England, it was estimated that between 1,000 and 2,000 men and women within a certain period, I couldn't find the dates that they took this information from, were accused of witchcraft.
Yeah.
And close to half of them were then executed.
Yeah. Even men and children as well.
I've seen some pretty witchy children in my day. In my day.
In my day.
I looked up stuff on the Salem witch trials, too. And there was only like 20-some people executed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, surprising, right? I think
Yeah.
Salem witch trials, and I think like thousands of people killed.
So tell me about the broom then. Why did witches ride brooms?
They think that, well, the broom was used in pagan rituals for fertility.
Okay.
15th century or so. And because the idea of witchcraft spawned from pagan rituals and then as Christianity was coming up. And you were seeing, when Christianity was becoming dominantly popular, you were seeing some of these people doing pagan rituals, and with Christianity as the dominant religion, they were saying, no, that's not how we do stuff anymore. We pray to the saints, we do this and we do that. You know, burning sage and praying to the god of corn or whatever.
Right.
Corneus.
Corneus, the god of corn.
Not very creative, that Corneus.
He was the colonel of all of the gods, wasn't he?
God. That joke just made me a husk of a man. So it was looked down upon.
I'm amazed that you even got it.
God damn it, Remington. The broom was also supposedly used to hide their wand.
Yeah.
During, you know, witch raids or whatever.
Right.
People busting in with their AK-47s like, down, witch raid! Stuff like that.
Oh, I gotta hide my wand!
I gotta get it out of here.
So on the topic of witches, one of the most famed witches of film was the Wicked Witch of the West.
Mm-hmm.
From The Wizard of Oz. So the Wicked Witch of the West was played by Margaret Hamilton.
Naturally, yes.
I just recently saw her in, I think it was like a Civil War movie.
Not a recent one.
No.
I was gonna say,
but
Jesus,
it was just, well,
she is a witch.
It's really interesting to see actors that you know from really prominent films that, you know, stand the test of time.
Yeah.
In a different role.
Yeah, like the new boyfriend from Mrs. Doubtfire also played James Bond.
That's true. Yes, he did. So, interesting tidbits about her makeup. It was copper-based paint, which exposure to that much copper, you're going to get some sort of metal poisoning, heavy metal poisoning.
Also one of my favorite Scorpions albums.
So this paint, while I don't think she suffered any, you know, long-term effects from the copper-based paint, her skin was still pigmented green for several weeks after having to wear it. And you were telling me about one of the very first scenes.
Yeah, where she appears and...
where she disappears.
Well, she appears and says some stuff to Dorothy or whatever. And then disappears in a puff of smoke.
Yeah.
The pyrotechnics from that caught or interacted with her makeup. I don't know if she actually just literally like caught fire, but they interacted with her makeup and gave her first and second degree burns over half of her face and her hands.
Yeah. And she was off filming for like a month and a half.
I hope she got paid well for that.
I hope so too.
Well, what was Wizard of Oz, like the 30s?
Yeah.
I mean, how much were they
39,
paying people then? Probably not much.
$1.50 a day.
Total?
A day.
There you go, Margaret.
Here's $1.50 and a bonus of 50 cents.
Buy yourself some new skin.
So yeah, for a lot of the rest of the filming, she still had scarring on her hands from the second degree burns, and she would actually, if you look real close, you can see that she's actually wearing green gloves on her hands.
I'll have to watch that again and check that out.
So that was just an interesting tidbit about one of the most famous witches in film history.
I find Wizard of Oz kind of boring.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's been a little while since I've seen it, but I always really enjoyed the movie. It was one of Vanessa's favorites growing up. So.
Vanessa being your sister.
Yeah.
Is it like the wholesomeness you enjoy?
You know what? Honestly, I think it might be the colors. The color scheme and the color palette in that movie, when they go from the sepia tone to the vibrant colors, and that was one of the first few movies that had really jumped right into the Technicolor aspect of movie making, you know? I don't even know if it was Technicolor at that point.
I think it was the first color movie.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
It might be.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. At least 75%?
80, 85.
Okay.
I would say I'm pretty sure because I've had this discussion/argument with somebody before.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, the colors in that are just very vibrant and pop out at you, and it's really enjoyable visually. And the storyline is fine as well.
I don't care what anybody says. Dark Side of the Moon syncs up perfectly to Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Maybe it's the amount of liquor and weed I was consuming while watching them synced up. But right when she walks out of the house from black and white to color, the like cash register of the song Money starting goes in. Right when the Good Witch appears, the sax solo starts kicking around.
Right.
And I mean, I don't care that the singers or the singer of Pink Floyd came out and said, no, we didn't sync it up to Wizard of Oz. I'll be goddamned if it doesn't sync up perfectly.
So maybe it was just a happy accident.
Yeah, I mean, you can watch something and listen to music and it's going to sync up somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's probably what it is, but it works pretty well.
So I think to wrap up, we'll talk about the economy of Halloween and how it's become the second biggest holiday in regard to money spent next to Christmas.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's just very, very, very crazy. Early this morning, as I was designing a different logo for my sister, I was reading an article about sexy costumes.
You were just reading it for the articles, right?
Yeah, the idea that sexy costumes are about the only thing that women can get nowadays. I mean, you can't get something that's, neutral sexed or, like, not something that's having boobies pop out of the top of it. Even kids' costumes, female children's costumes are...
They're slightly sexualized in a weird way.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that's intentional so much as they just take an adult woman's costume and just kind of shrink it down.
Yeah, and just scale it down. Like the article's talking about like female police uniforms look like what a stripper would wear to a stag party or something like that.
Well, they're stripper cops.
Yeah.
Stripper
Cops that
Waka stripper cop.
That's our next movie idea. Right after we write the one about
She could
witches.
be a stripper cop witch.
Oh my god.
We could combine these two ideas.
Why would we do that? I mean, we gotta have multiple facets.
It's her day job, dude. She can't just be a witch all the time.
Why not?
Because she'll give it away. The secret is nobody knows that she's a witch. During the day, she's a stripper cop.
Okay.
She's a regular cop that strips.
So what you're trying to tell me is that she's Melissa Joan Hart.
Yes.
Oh, I always had a crush on her.
Melissa Joan Hart?
Yeah.
Have you seen Melissa and Joey? The sitcom
I
she does with, Whoa, Joey?
Whoa. No.
It was really bad.
Was it?
Yeah, when I was living by myself, I had Netflix and decided, fuck it, I'll give this a shot. I watched like 3 episodes, and each one of them just made me grind my teeth. It's the most formulaic, bullshitty sitcom in the entire world.
Nice. So yeah, biggest consumer holiday after Christmas. It's estimated that Americans will spend about $7.5 billion this year on Halloween as a whole. And $2.5 billion of that money will be on costumes, with a little over half of that being adult costumes.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Costumes are not cheap.
No, they're not. For as cheaply as they are made, I mean, we've got to be talking like, let's assume that they're all made in China or Taiwan.
That's racist, but okay.
And even if they weren't, the material that they use is pretty crappy. I mean, you can tear right through one of those.
It's typically like nylon.
Yeah. So we're talking maybe $10-15 to make the costume.
Oh, not even fucking close to that, dude. You're talking like less than $1 to make those costumes.
No, that's a little cheap.
Fabric, when you're buying fabric in that large of quantities, it is cheap.
I understand that, but I mean, still, there's the work that goes into it, and even being made out of country, they might be getting paid pennies on the dollar, but there's still a lot wrapped up in it. So, okay, let's pull it down a little bit more and say $5-6 a costume.
Okay.
You're paying $30, $45, sometimes upwards of $70 to $100 for a costume that, especially in a women's costume, has less fucking fabric than you would find in a stripper's costume.
Well, if you just make Halloween costumes, if that's your big money maker,
right,
you've got to price them high, and you can.
Yeah.
Because how many people, I would say a large majority of people, are the kind of people who buy Halloween costumes like, oh shit, I've got a thing to go to tonight where I have to wear a costume. Let's run out to the Halloween store real quick.
Yeah. That being said, though, whereas men would do something like that, sometimes there's a lot of women who will plan their costume way in advance about what they're going to do, what accessories they're going to get. So there's the other part of the market is buying accessories for your costume.
Yeah. My girlfriend went out and bought a Halloween costume for her daughter a week or so ago, and it was like $30.
Yeah.
It was insane because it basically came down to a leotard and a tutu that was
right,
multicolored, and it was like Rainbow Cat or something. Didn't even come with cat ears. Isn't that fucked up?
Yeah,
it was a Rainbow Cat costume. Didn't come with fucking cat ears. It was like an extra $20 for cat ears.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is straight ridiculous.
Stripper cop would never have that problem.
No.
She's got a closet full of cat ears. It's like looking in Doug Funny's closet. It's just cat ears and stripper cop outfits.
Wow, Doug, you've got a lot of stripper cat outfits.
Well, hello, Douglas.
That was the unaired episode.
Yeah.
Where Or Skeeter found out it was not that funny. Did you have any, what kind of stuff did you dress up as a kid?
As we've established before, my memory of my childhood is pretty crappy. Not like that I had a crappy childhood, but I just don't remember a whole lot from my childhood, which is weird. I guess it was just normal enough to not remember.
Well, you lived the first 10 years of your life in the woods, so that might have something to do with it.
Well, yeah, being raised by Sasquatch, but, I mean, that's neither here nor there. After that fact, I dressed up. You would think that being as hairy as I am, I'd dress up as the Wolfman a lot, but no, I usually would go with vampires. I don't know, I found vampires very tantalizing.
You still do, kind of, don't you? Do you still have those fangs you bought years ago?
I still have them laying around somewhere. They need to be redone. But yeah, I mean, that was about that time where vampires were the big thing, right before Twilight, but they were still kind of big in other aspects. Yeah, I would wear my fangs around just to wear them.
I remember that.
Yeah.
You would work in retail and you just have your fangs in sometimes.
Yeah. I don't know. It was a discussion point. Oh my God, what's wrong with your teeth? Well, these are just, fake fangs. Oh my God, they look so real,
Would you ever pretend to be a vampire?
Yeah.
Really? I wonder where that comes from.
What, the bleh?
They're like, bleh, I'm a vampire.
I'm a vampire, bleh. I have no idea.
My family...
No, my romanticization. Is that right? Romanticization?
Romanticizing? Sure. Sure, okay.
Really came more from the powers that vampires would have, where, say, Underworld, where they were more powerful than just a normal human. They had super strength and could leap tall buildings in a single bound.
The power of seduction.
Seduction, yes.
Vampires had a lot of, glamour powers.
Yeah.
Like confusing people, misdirection, hypnotism, and stuff.
Yeah, they did. Going back to Dracula Dead and Loving It, where he... Oh, what was the character's name? It wasn't Igor. Renfield.
Yeah.
Renfield! Oh, the guy who played Renfield's character. So awesome.
Growing up, my family had a big Tupperware container of different Halloween accessories. And every year, it was just pick some accessories, and that's what you're going as for Halloween. And, my mom might buy a cape here or there, or a mask or something.
Right.
But I can think of the worst Halloween costume I ever wore. It was probably 12 years old or so, one of the last times I went out for Halloween. I was wearing a black t-shirt, jeans, a Dracula cape, like your typical black cape with the red inside.
Right.
And a gorilla mask. Do you know how hard it is to explain to somebody when they say, "What are you supposed to be?" and you can't even explain it?
I don't know. I'm a fucking vampire gorilla.
Vampire gorilla. That would be a cool costume. And I wish I would have been clever enough to say vampire gorilla, because I think I would have had people say, "Oh, okay." Instead,
Right.
It was just like, my family's poor.
So going back to Dracula Dead and Loving It, Peter MacNicol was the guy who played Renfield, who was in Ghostbusters 2, the guy who was heading the curation and the restoration of stuff in the...
For Gozer the Gozerian.
Yeah. No, not Gozer. Vigo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Viggo Mortensen,
Yep.
who was also Strider in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vigo the Vigarison.
Vigo...
The Vigarian?
The Vigarian, yes. That's another... Ghostbusters, spans the test of time as far as it goes, but I mean, it's a good Halloween movie, I would say. If you were to lump it in somewhere, they should definitely be playing it as well.
My favorite whimsical Halloween movie,
Yeah.
hands down, and I know this isn't going to surprise you at all, Ernest Scared Stupid. God, I love that movie. It's become a tradition where I watch it with my daughter every year around
really?
Halloween. She asks for it February, June sometimes, and I'll let her watch it occasionally, but I try to keep it as one of those things where she can look forward to it to start a tradition,
Yeah, yeah.
Ernest is just, I don't know, he's just fantastic. The movie's great.
Worrell.
The idea that the trolls don't kill people, they capture children and turn them into wooden action figures,
Yeah.
and then put them in their tree home. It's just great.
That's weird. I haven't seen that in forever, and you talking about it's kind of bringing back snippets of it.
Because the 90s movies, especially horror movies, loved slime.
Yeah.
So the trolls were always dripping snot into their mouths and then drooling and stuff. So yeah, do you have any Halloween tradition really? You don't, right? You don't really
not
do
really.
anything exciting.
No, never. I like Halloween. I think it gets a little overplayed nowadays. It just seems like it's another excuse to have a big drunken party.
Mm-hmm.
But I really liked handing out candy, honestly. Like, if we would have had the time and the money to decorate the front so I could hand out candy this year, it would have been really nice.
So you're just going to turn off your lights and
we won't be home.
Peek out the windows when the kids are there and just whisper, "Go away."
We'll be at work. So I am a little disappointed that I don't get to hand out candy. Cities nowadays moving the actual trick-or-treating off of October 31st and, or not having it on a weekend or something like that. It's very disappointing to me because I don't get to hand out candy.
Well, around here too, Halloween's like an hour and a half, I think, that you can go trick-or-treating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, it doesn't take that long.
To trick-or-treat?
Yeah.
You go as long as trick-or-treating goes for, dude. You have an hour and a half, you start right at 6:30 and you don't stop until 8 o'clock.
Well, yeah, but still, I mean...
You gotta get them Butterfingers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our neighborhoods around here are relatively small. I mean, you can cover that kind of ground.
Yeah.
And then you have those fucked up people who are, like, spiking candy with shit, razor blades, or... There's always that fear.
That was a fear-mongering thing. I actually read up about that.
Oh, yeah?
There was one case of a guy that did it. There was a guy who's trying to collect the insurance on, I think, his nephew's life. So he replaced his pixie stick sugar with cyanide. And the kid died, and the guy was caught. So that's where the entire craze of check your candy. There's been no actual cases of razor blades found in apples or any of that. It all stemmed from this mass hysteria of this one guy who did it to his own kid or his nephew, and it just all stemmed from there.
Yeah.
So eat your candy. You don't need to check it.
No.
Just bite into apples blind. You got that creepy guy that baked you cookies. Yeah, they're fine. Eat them. The meatloaf he gives you, it's all right.
It's not made out of dog. All right. So to wrap up, we'll do our shout outs. And I wanted to give, I know week before last we did one, but I think it's more appropriate now that we do another shout out for The Monsters of Jimmy Crumb. Part 2, they just shipped to be printed, I believe, on the 27th. So that's written by James Patrick and illustrated by Jen Hickman. You can find it by searching their Kickstarter out, or you can type in Monsters of Jimmy Crumb on Facebook, or go to 21 Pulp, which is the banner that they are releasing it under.
We need to get a hold of a copy of that so we can read it and review it.
Yeah, I agree. Other than that, shout-outs. Laurel just shouted right before we started the show, shared us.
We are so bad at ending this podcast.
Shared us on Twitter, saying, hey, listen to...
You're like my confused grandpa.
Oh.
Just, Laurel just did some...
she did. She
stuff here.
She threw us out some shoutings.
She gave us a shout out on Twitter, which is always appreciated.
Yeah.
If you listen to this...
What is this internet thing you're talking about?
Any sort of share, recommend to a friend. If we do an episode specifically that, hey, my friend, whatever, might enjoy this, always appreciate passing it on.
Yep. Also, we will be shooting another episode of The Retrograders this weekend. Yeah,
that's on... We have a separate YouTube page for that. At some point, we're going to interconnect them in some way. I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet. You can search The Retrograders on YouTube. It's me, Remington, Cody, who's been on a few episodes, and our friend, our resident stoner, John, who was on the My Little Pony episode.
Right. Playing retro games, shit-talking each other, not really reviewing them. We play as long as we can until we decide to stop. Yep. So it's pretty much the podcast in video form. You can, unedited, hear how many times I say that Remington cuts out of these episodes, too. Yeah. So that's always fun. We have a Facebook page for that as well. Yep, I don't have a Twitter up for it yet, but at some point I will. So do you have any other shout-outs, Brandon? Yeah, I want to give a shout-out to the webpage imockery.com. It's the letter I, a dash, and then mockery, MOCKERY.com. It's run by one guy. He does horror movie reviews, Halloween food reviews. He runs the website year-round and updates it, but around Halloween, once it hits September, he does 2 months of Halloween.
and almost every other day, twice a week, depending on how busy he is, will put up a review of like the monster serials that were released or top 10 favorite moments in Gremlins 2, stuff like that.
Okay.
The website's been around for 10-ish years or so. I've been reading it since I was a kid. The guy is really cool. I've talked to him a few times. The website's really funny. He's got all kinds of Halloween-themed games he's made on there. I'd recommend checking it out. If you like horror movies, Halloween stuff, definitely. It's funny.
All right, awesome. And if you have any questions or comments, or you'd like to hear yourself mentioned on air, you can reach us on Twitter at Dueling Ogres, email us at duelingogres@gmail.com, or leave a comment on the podcast page or Facebook. Also, be sure to give us a 5-star review on iTunes and a thumbs up, or a comment on Stitcher. That helps to boost us higher on the cool kids list.
I want to go ahead and give a Hail Satan also.
Whoa, that's awkward.
Until next week, Ogres.
No. You wait just a second. As a proclaimed atheist, you can't say Hail Satan.
I can say Hail Satan.
Because you don't believe in Satan.
I say Jesus Christ. I say God damn it.
So until next week, Ogres.
I wanted to do it.
Oh, you want to do it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So until next week, Ogres,
So until next week, Ogres, keep your clubs blunt and your tusks sharp.
Good night.
Fuck that up so hard.
I always fuck it up.
I know.
It's like I don't know how to read my own words. I wrote the shit.
I know. You wrote it and you reference it. You look it over before we start recording every time.
I know. So disappointed in myself.
We do at least 2 takes of the opening and the closing every fucking episode. So until next week, keep her just
tucks sharp. Keep your tucks.
Keep your tucks sharp. Because every girl's crazy
about a sharp-dressed man. Good night.
Yeah, most podcasts I know do have show notes, so I figure.
Yeah. It's probably a little important that we do some.
It seems like it's used enough that there's a purpose to it.
Right.
Am I picking up too much? Or is that good?
I don't know. It seems like something's off. It seems like we should be coming through a lot better than that. 1 2 1 2 1 2.
1 2 1 2.
Yeah, that looks a lot better.
Good.
Oop, I bumped the thing.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, we look even.
Okay. 1 2 3.
1 2 3.
Okay. You were a little louder on that anyway, so.
That's just a little bit louder than what it should be. It's just a little loud.
All right. Hello, Ogres, and welcome. I don't want to come in too hot.
You're coming in hot, Rem.
I'm coming in hot!
Pull up!
I'm coming in hot! Pull up! Pull up! Oh my god! Ah! And 5, 4, 3.
Wait.
What?
Are you doing 10 seconds of silence?
Oh, yeah, I should do that, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
All right, 10 seconds of silence now. Hello, Ogres, and I'm going to redo it because I meant to do it in the other voice. God damn, everything I do. Well, every time I start, I screw up
That's what happens
something.
when we miss a week, dude.
I know.
We're off.
We're off. All right.
Let me get out my giggles.
You just get your giggles out of there, Brandon.
All right.
Get them out. Just come on. Brandon, you need to take this a little more seriously.
You're not helping.
I know, but you need to try.
I'm a little giggle monster.
You're just... I'm just going to tickle you until you wet yourself.
Just gonna giggle on your
Then
belly.
I'm going to smell your pee-pee. What? God.
It gives me no sustenance.
Nose sustenance or no sustenance?
Nose.
Nose.
It's sniff food.
It's olfactorily pleasing.
Yes.
Olfactularily. I'm just making up words now.
Well, hell, we have a podcast. We can make up words if we want to.
Okay, cool.
I want to give a shout out to that webpage before you read the last bit.
Okay.
Do you want me to go ahead and do that?
So, do you have any other shout outs that you wanted to...
Yeah, I just told you I did. You're just going to edit it out so it doesn't sound like we had that conversation.
Well, yeah, I was.